Hello, dear students. Welcome to another class. Today, we're going to talk about a crucial grammar topic, which is modal verbs. You need modal verbs to speak English fluently, to speak English naturally, and modal verbs are also extremely important if you are preparing for proficiency exams, whether you're preparing for IELTS, TOEFL, DT, or OET, you have to know how to use modal verbs. Modal verbs can soften the tone of your arguments and also help them sound more academic. I'm going to show you how you can do it. So today we're going to learn how to use the modal verbs for everyday communication and also for academic and exam purposes. So, hello, everyone. Say hello. Tell me where you're from. Let me know if you're already a student, if you want to be a student, or if you found me on YouTube. This class is open for everyone. However, after it is transmitted live, only my students will have access to it because this class is very important. So I decided to share it with you online and, well, to make it available for those of you who are here with me, but it will only be available later for my students. So if you are a student, you can watch this class whenever you want. On the other hand, if you aren't, you will only be able to watch this one live. So let me know where you're from, guys. Say hello. Come on. I know that there are a few people online here. You can see 14 people online. And let's begin. Let's begin because today we have a lot of content to talk about. And let's see here. Let's begin our modal verbs class about our modal verb class, talking about ability. So let's begin by talking about ability. And this is the easiest way of using modal verbs. I'm going to teach you a very, very easy way and a more academic way, but that is also easy. So we have Flavia here online. Flavia told me she would be here. She's my OET student, Poliana. Polly, I don't remember if you are an OET student or an IELTS student. I'm sorry. I have too many Polianas, seriously. And all of my Polianas, they have a Y in their names. So sometimes I get lost. The other day I was talking to one of the Polianas and she told me, "No, teacher, I think you're confusing like my name with somebody else's." And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. It's true. OET. So Poliana is an OET student. Great, Poliana. Ah, Poliana, okay. You live in the US, in Boston. It's true. I remember you. We talked at the end of the year and you became a student now at the beginning of the year. Okay, I remember you. You came from a recommendation, right? From nurses, Brazil, USA. So let's begin. Let's begin. Let's talk about the easiest modal verb, can. So when do we use can? We use can to talk about abilities, about skills, about things that we can do. So for example, I can drive. I can drive badly, but I can drive. I can survive. And she can speak 3 languages. So this is a way to talk about our abilities. Can is a structure that has many uses, and it's very important to know how to use it. So one thing that I would like to draw your attention to is after can, we use the verb in the zero infinitive or base form. What does that mean? We cannot use the verb in the infinitive with to. A very common mistake is this one here. I can't to play the guitar. No, I can't play. I can't dance. I can't speak. I can sing, whatever. And we also don't add the S to the verb in the third person singular. when we have he, she, it, for example. We don't say he can sings really well. No, he can sing, she can sing, I can sing. We don't change the main verb when we are using modal verbs. We never change the main verb. So this is a general rule for modal verbs that you gotta know. Can is informal and it is very common. Actually, can is neutral. It is the kind of language that you can use in formal situations and informal situations. It's like very flexible. I'm going to teach you a more advanced and more academic formal way of saying can. Okay, great. Can in the affirmative, we use the subject can and the base form. I can drive, they can understand English. Negative, if you are writing in a formal way, you can't use contractions. So those of you who want to study modal verbs for OET, IELTS, TOEFL, DT, pay attention to that. Okay, cannot is what you gotta use, and we use cannot together in a formal way. If you're speaking like in everyday communication in general, you can use can't. I cannot drive, she can't understand the instructions. And pay attention to something important. Native speakers, they hardly ever pronounce the T in can't. For example, I don't know if you paid attention to when I was reading the examples, but I said, she can't understand the instructions. I'm going to talk about pronunciation of can in a few minutes because this is important when we are addressing this subject. And in the interrogative form, we just invert the auxiliary verb and the subject. So instead of I can drive, can I drive? You can drive. Can you drive? Can you understand instructions? So remember that you can also ask questions using what? What can you do very well? Where can you dance at night in the city? So you can use what, where, when, how, any interrogative pronoun. And now let's talk about pronunciation, because this is a main difficulty that students have, especially in listening activities. So I told you, native speakers don't usually pronounce T in can't. So if we don't pronounce the T in can't, how do you know whether a sentence is in the interrogative, is in the affirmative or negative form? I will teach you something very important about stress. What is stress? Stress is the syllaba tônica. So the stress is the part of the sentence or of a word that we emphasize. So when I have an affirmative sentence, I don't stress can. So pay attention. I can drive. If you paid close attention to how I said it, I emphasized drive a little bit more. I can dance. I can speak 3 languages. So we never emphasize can. However, when we have a negative sentence, we have to stress can't. We don't pronounce the T, but we know the sentence is in the negative form because we emphasize the structure. So for example, I can't drive. I can drive. I can't drive. So I would say a sentence in the affirmative and in the negative for you to pay attention to the difference. I can speak 3 languages. I can't speak 3 languages. I can dance really well. I can't dance very well. He can play the guitar. He can't play the guitar. He can run a marathon. He can't run a marathon. So you see, even though I don't pronounce the T, you know it is negative because I emphasized the modal verb. So pay attention to that detail whenever you're not sure. Of course, double check in real life communication. We can do that. If you're taking a proficiency exam, you won't be able to do that because the listening audios are played only once, but try to pay attention to this small detail, okay? So the difference between can and can't is mainly the vowel sound in can. it is longer, like I can't drive, I can drive. So here in the affirmative form, we have a weak form of can with a very short sound of the vowel and also the stress. The difference is not in the T because the T is hardly ever pronounced. So I think I've made my point clear. Let's move on. Let's talk about could. So another way of talking about ability is using could, but could is used to talk about ability in the past or ability in a hypothetical unreal situation when we are using, for example, a second conditional structure. Okay, here we have two examples with could. When I was a child, I could swim very well. I could run a marathon when I was practicing intensively. Once again, you have to pay attention to the main verb. We don't add to between could and the main verb. It is incorrect to say I could to run very fast. The right thing is I could run very fast. We also don't add the S to the verb in the third person singular. I mean, he, she, it in the simple present form. We have to keep the verb in the base form too. They could sing well, they could dance well, he could sing well, he could dance well, she could play the guitar. Okay, and could can also be used for hypothetical situations in general and for polite language. We're going to talk about polite language later, not now. Now we are focusing on ability. Okay, in the affirmative form, as I told you, subject could and the verb, I could read when I was 4, I could understand it. In the negative, could not or couldn't. Could not for formal texts, couldn't for spoken language, and neutral to informal texts. So I couldn't read when I was 4. He couldn't understand it. And in the interrogative form, could plus subject plus verb in the base form. So could you read when you were 4? Could he understand it? So it is easy peasy to use could. Could is the past of can in this situation here when we are talking about ability. Now let's also talk about pronunciation. A very common pronunciation issue that students have is pronouncing the L in could. They say something like this, cold, cold. This is incorrect. We don't pronounce this L. The L is silent. So we say could, I could swim, I could play, I could run, never I could run, right? And in the negative, you can say couldn't or couldn't. American people usually say couldn't. I use couldn't all the time. For me, it is natural. You can try to, especially if you're going to the US. I believe most of you are going to the US or to Canada, and that's how they speak. And now I'm going to teach you a more formal way of expressing ability. Be able to is not only a more formal structure, but it is also a more flexible, dynamic structure. Why? Because you can use be able to in all verb tenses. Can, present, could, past. But be able to can be conjugated in the present perfect, simple present perfect, continuous, past perfect, all verb tenses, okay? Future, conditional, whatever. So here there are 2 examples. I will be able to help you tomorrow. She has been able to adapt quickly. So we have a sentence with will and another one with the present perfect, right? And as I told you, it works in all tenses, so it's flexible. It replaces can and could. It replaces can in any situation, and it replaces could also in any situation. It is more formal. So, for example, if you are doing a proficiency exam, instead of saying, I am able to, I can do something, say, I'm able to do something. This is going to help you elevate your score. For those of you who are doing OET, this is essential, okay? When you were talking about the patient, for example, the patient is not able to walk without crutches at this moment, for example. Instead of saying the patient cannot walk, so be able to is definitely the right choice for you in this situation when you were talking about patients who are going through rehabilitation, for example. So here's a tip for you. And it is always followed by to. You always need to use the verb in the infinitive with to. So I can dance, I'm able to dance. I could play, I was able to play. So here it is the opposite of can and could. You gotta be careful. So in the affirmative, you just need to conjugate the verb to be. She's able to drive, he was able to answer the question. In the negative, don't forget to conjugate the verb to be. Plus, you need to put it in the negative form. Isn't able to drive. He wasn't able to answer the question. If you're writing, don't use contractions. Use she is not. For example, the patient is not able to drive at this moment because she's taking medicine that makes her feel drowsy. Interrogative. Be, we use the verb to be before the subject, able to, and the verb in the base form. Are you able to drive? Was he able to answer the question? We can also use what, when, where, why, with be able to. So as I told you, it's a really dynamic structure. And here we can see be able to in no verb tenses. I am able to work remotely, simple present. They have been able to solve the problem quickly, present perfect. I was able to finish the report yesterday, simple past. We had been able to adapt before the deadline, past perfect simple. Clip that. They will be able to join the meeting tomorrow, future simple. I am going to be able to help you later, future with going to. She would be able to work abroad if she spoke French. This is conditional. Guys, sometimes you will hear me say clip that because the app that I use to transmit, to broadcast my classes makes some like short videos for YouTube shorts and Instagram reels when I say clip that. Okay, so I'm helping the artificial intelligence. So when you hear this sentence, like it's nothing, like I'm not crazy. Okay, I'm just asking the AI to help me. And well, now I'm gonna talk about something really important. I told you that be able to can always be used to replace can and could. But there are situations in which could cannot be used instead of be able to. So could can never be used to talk about a specific situation. For example, I couldn't finish the exam yesterday. Could is used to talk about abilities in general. If you're talking about a specific ability, you can't use could. I was able to finish the exam yesterday. In this situation, you need to use only be able to. Clip that. I could read when I was a child. This is perfect, fine, okay, because we're talking about a general ability. Soraya, can I also say I was able to read? Of course, able to can always be used. Could has this particularity, okay? And now let's talk about a structure that I hardly ever see Portuguese speakers using, but American people, fluent speakers in general, use a lot. Manage to. So manage to is also used to talk about an ability, but when we use this structure, we are emphasizing that something was difficult. We were able to succeed, but something was difficult. She managed to finish the race despite the injury. I'm sure he'll manage to pass the final exam. So manage to always highlights the difficulty. If you want to add more emphasis, you can use managed to instead of was able to or be able to in general. It is also followed by to and the verb in the infinitive, managed to do something. It's more commonly used in the past, but you can also use it in any verb tense. Clip that. In the affirmative form, we use managed to or managed to in the past. As I told you, it is more common. I managed to solve the problem. In the negative form, use do not, don't, does not, doesn't, did not, didn't, plus manage plus to plus the verb in the base form. I didn't manage to solve the problem. I can't solve the problem. No, he didn't manage to solve the problem. He didn't manage to finish the reports. She didn't manage to attend the meeting. Oopsie. Here, we also have the structure in the interrogative form. Did you manage to solve the problem? Sorry, guys, here the structure is the structure of be able to. Well, it is incorrect. I asked the ChatGPT to correct all my presentations, but sometimes it doesn't point out some mistakes. I get mad because I pay for it, but okay. So, what is the difference between be able to and manage to? Manage to focus on the difficulty, and be able to focuses on the result. So, when you want to say that something was tough, use manage to. I want to see you guys who are in the United States trying to use it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I want to challenge you. Tomorrow, when you are talking to people, you will find a way to use manage to. Let me know later if you were able to do it and how you used it, okay? Now, we're going to talk about an easy way of using modal verbs too, okay? Which is asking permission. So, asking permission. How do we ask for permissions in English? The most common way is by using can. Gente, vocês não estão vendo minha apresentação? Há muito tempo. A gente teve esse problema na aula passada e era o meu HD que estava com problema. Agora não era para a apresentação ter saído. Porque eu já comprei um HD novo. Ai, gente. Socorro. Help. Vamos ajeitar aqui para eu poder ver se está apresentando. Sorry for that. So, can. We use can to ask for or give permission in everyday language. So, to give permission, you can leave early today. Can I use your phone? It's very common in everyday communication. It's informal, neutral. Again, you're always safe when you use can. Sometimes I see some teachers saying, if you use can, you'll be a little impolite. This is not true. American people use can for everything. They use can all the time. Okay, and I've always used can. I've never had trouble in my life. So you can use can too. And we can use could, of course, if we are in a more formal environment and if you're talking to strangers. So could you open the window? Could we leave a bit earlier? So let's suppose that you were asking your professor for permission to leave a bit earlier with your group to work on an assignment. Could we leave a bit earlier today? We need to work on the assignment. We need to work on the project. So could is, of course, more polite, but using can is also okay. I am the kind of person who likes to be polite and to be kind to people. So I always say please, thank you, and I always use could, would, to sound a little bit more gentle. Also because of my voice, I speak in a very assertive way, right? You all know that sometimes people think I'm being like, a little rude. So I always try to manage that by using these tricks, using language in my favor, either in Portuguese or in English or in French, because I also speak French. So I always prefer to be more polite than I need to be to avoid problems. And as I told you, could is more polite than can. It's also very common in spoken language. And it's like very common in requests when you are asking people to do something, asking information when you are walking on the streets. May is a very, very formal way of asking for permission or to give permission to. Um, if you are in a very, very formal environment, you can use can. If the environment can or may, if the environment is not so formal, using can or could is good enough. Okay, may is a little old-fashioned. So, as I told you, it is very formal and polite. It is very common in written rules and formal speech, and it's not common at all in everyday conversations. Now, I'm gonna talk about something that is extremely important for proficiency exams, using may and other structures to talk about possibility. Okay, this is like very important, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, right. So we use may to say that something is possible, but you're not 100% sure about it. So, for example, the sky is cloudy, but it's also a bit sunny here. It's like the clouds are scattered. It may rain later. I don't know. I don't know. We live in Curitiba. Everything is possible here. But I cannot say for sure it will rain later. No, I don't know, but it may rain. It may rain. Who knows? She may arrive late. She lives very far from here. She may arrive late. I'm not sure. Maybe she will leave home in advance. She will get an Uber, whatever. But I believe she may arrive late. So here we are expressing like uncertainty. We use that when we don't want to be direct also. Okay. Before I talk about the importance of May for proficiency exams, let me give more details about it. May is more formal than might. Might is the same as may, but may tends to be more formal. Don't use a to after may. Okay, don't use a to after can, could, may, and might also. So it's incorrect to say I may to travel on my vacation. We say I may travel. And we don't add the s to the third person. He may works late. The verb never changes when we are using modal verbs. He may work until late. Okay, so it is always followed by the base form. No third person changes, no to. Right, so now let's talk about using may in proficiency exams. Imagine, so for those of you who are preparing for IELTS or for DT, this will be more specific for you guys. Imagine you were talking about childhood and screens. This is a topic that is very common in these proficiency exams, in TOEFL too. Imagine that you want to say something like this. Children who watch too much TV and overuse smartphones will become anxious and will have trouble sleeping at night. Look at what I said. They will become more anxious and they will have trouble sleeping at night. Can I say this for sure? Like to all children, am I a scientist bringing scientific facts? That can support my statement? No, right? I'm talking about my opinion about it, according to things I saw, things I read, and things I know. So in this situation, in proficiency exams, it's better to use may. So children who watch too much TV and overuse smartphones may become more anxious, may have trouble sleeping at night, because then we soften the tone of our statements. This will help our text sound more formal and more academic. So may is a trick, using may is a trick that you need to do. All right. It is something you need to use when you are when you are building arguments in your writing tasks, and also when you are speaking. Why not? So here's a tip for you. Clip that. Let's see what I can get from this clip. May. She may agree in the affirmative. She may agree with the decision. It may be true. Negative. She may not agree with the decision. It may not be true. Guys, it is possible to say mayn't. She mayn't agree with the decision. It mayn't be true, but may is a formal structure, very formal structure. Are you going to use a formal structure in an informal way? It's okay. You can do that. It's not a crime. But for you who are taking proficiency exams, like I wouldn't abbreviate may. If you use may, use it, the traditional way. That's what I think. In the interrogative form, we don't use may. Okay. Do you think she will agree with the decision? Well, she may agree with the decision, or she may not agree with the decision. Is it likely to be true? It may not be true, or it may be true. Why not? Okay, so in interrogative, we don't use may she agree with the decision. No, it sounds unnatural. Stop to think. It will sound unnatural, right? Mine is the same as may. Some grammar books say that when you use may, you have a 40% of certainty, and when you use might, you have a 30%. Guys, this is not something we can quantify. Okay, many grammar books are dropping this idea. This is like an old-fashioned idea. May and might express uncertainty. May is more formal. Might is formal to neutral. It is more common in spoken language than may, for sure. So it might rain later. She might be at home. So as I told you, it is more common in spoken English than may. No to after might, and no s in the main verb when you use might. I might work, you might work, he might work, she might work. So pay attention to that. Soraya, can I also use might in texts? Yes, you can. It's formal enough. It is. But may is more formal, but it's okay to use that in text, in spoken language. It's up to you, okay? And the structure is the same as may too. Might plus the base form of the verb, as we have already discussed. She might agree with the decision. It might be true. She might not agree with the decision. It might not be true. You can also use mightn't. She mightn't agree with the decision. It mightn't be true. Might not is more common, because usually when people use might, also they want to emphasize. It isn't common in the interrogative, just like may. Guys, something really interesting that this type of coincidence always happens to me. I don't know why, but I love audiobooks. I love reading. I love stories in general. And yesterday, when I was driving to my daughter's school to pick her up, I was listening to an Agatha Christie book. I love Agatha Christie. I've been a fan since I was literally a little girl. I started reading Agatha Christie when I was 10 years old in Portuguese, okay, guys, not in English. Nowadays, only in English. And I chose an audiobook called Murder is Easy. Actually, it's a very good story. Like I'm really enjoying it. The beginning is amazing. And the guy, the main character of the story, used mightn't. She mightn't come if we invite her. And I was like, I was teaching my yesterday. I taught the same class to a company uh, that hires me to teach their clients. And I saw the guy using that, and I was like, oh my god, I was teaching this yesterday. This type of coincidence always happens to me. Like I'm teaching something and I hear something in an audiobook or in a video. It's crazy. So Carol says she loves Agatha Christie. I'm a great fan. I'm like, I've read, I think, more than 30 books. Now with the audiobooks, probably more. Probably more. When I was breastfeeding my daughter when she was born, my daughter used to like feed for 40 minutes, 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes. And it was a long time doing nothing, like just like a cow being milked. So I used to listen to Agatha Christie's audiobooks. That's when my obsession started because now I'm always reading a book and listening to an audiobook together. Like when I can't read, I'm listening to something. I love stories. I love reading. I love learning new things. And now let's talk about using modal verbs to talk about obligation. This is like very, very, very important because all the time when we are talking to people about our personal lives or about our professional lives too, we're discussing what we have to do, right? Today I have to pick my daughter up at school earlier. Tomorrow I have to do the laundry, right? This is our housewives' lives. So a very formal and emphatic way of talking about obligation is by using must. So you must wear a seatbelt. I must finish the report today. So this is very strong. It expresses a strong obligation. It emphasizes what you are saying. So must is very common in laws, rules, notices, and official instructions. That's when you're going to see must more often. It's more formal than have to, which is another way of expressing obligation that we're going to learn today. No to after must. Don't use the to after must, and don't use the s after must either. He must plays. No, he must play. And it's incorrect to say I must to go. I must go. Okay? Must is only used to express a present obligation. We don't use it in the past or in the future. Okay? Great. So here's some examples. In the affirmative, passengers must show their tickets, or I must color today. In the negative form, must changes its meaning. I'm going to talk about this different meaning later in this class. And in the interrogative, it is very uncommon. Clip that. Do they have to show their tickets? Do I have to color tonight? This is more common, using have to in the interrogative. Okay? Have to. It's also used to express obligations, a synonym of must, but it's more neutral to inform. It's more casual, right? So I have to get up early tomorrow. She has to wear a uniform at work. So in this situation, we need to use to and the verb in the infinitive. So it is very common in everyday communication. It's more dynamic You can use it in the past, in the present, in the future, and it replaces must in everyday conversations. People hardly ever use must when they're talking. Okay, so in the affirmative, if you're using the present, you need to remember to use the third person singular. If you're using he, she, it, like she has to study hard, he has to work until late. So pay attention to that. In the negative form, it expresses lack of obligation, of course, right? In the affirmative, you have the obligation. In the negative, you don't have that obligation. So I don't have to wake up early tomorrow. I can wake up early tomorrow if I want, but I don't have this obligation. Like tomorrow is Saturday. I don't have to wake up early, but my daughter will make me wake up early. Olha aí desaparecendo a tela. Será que meu HD novo está com problema também? Se de repente no meu computador me deixando surtada? Ah, não faz isso não, gente. Não aguento mais gastar dinheiro esse mês. School materials, uniform, stuff that the school requested. No, I don't want to spend more money. Feeding a child during vacation. You mothers, you parents, mothers and fathers know exactly what I'm talking about. And in the interrogative form, you have to use do, does, did, will, depending on the verb tense. So, do I have to wake up early? Does she have to study hard? Okay, let's see some examples of have to in different verb tenses. So, I have to work late today. She has to wear a uniform. I had to leave early yesterday. I will have to wake up early tomorrow. I'm going to have to talk to my manager. Guys, regarding the future, a lot of people ask me, Soraya, which is more common, will or going to? Guys, definitely will is more common with have to. I will have to do something, okay? I will have to travel. I will have to work. So use will when you are referring to the future. Raíza said that January is terrible. Yeah, January is terrible. Like, guys, I'm so, like, here at home, we are extremely methodic and organized. Okay. So I'm in a group with parents from her school. It's like grupo de venda desapegos, as we say in Portuguese. Grupinho, it's like a desapegos group. And so parents share uniforms, sell uniforms, and people are also selling books, like textbooks and reading books. And I got the list from last year, and I'm gonna buy the books in advance this year, throughout the year. Os livros paradidáticos, tá, gente? Because next year they don't have like textbooks. But there are 7 books, and they are quite expensive for a child's book. And I'm going to buy it little by little because, you know, I don't want to buy it all at once in January. No. Oh my God. And guys, something important. Have to can be used in the continuous form, like I am having to, I was having to. But people don't usually say that, okay? Only when you're talking about something really temporary, that is really a process that is like in change. So I am having to work more these days. If you want to emphasize the fact that this is something temporary, okay. I was having to travel a lot at that time. It is more natural to say I had to travel a lot at that time, especially in the past continuous. People hardly ever use have to, okay, in the continuous form. All right, so far so good. If you have questions, guys, you can ask, and I will answer your questions when whenever possible. So let's talk about prohibition. Remember that I told you that when we use must in the negative, the meaning changes. So mustn't or must not. When we use must in the negative, it means that something is prohibited. You're not allowed to do something. So you mustn't smoke here. Passengers must not open the doors while the train is moving. Okay? So must not is different from don't have to, because mustn't is a prohibition. Don't have to is lack of obligation. When you have dinner at my home, you don't have to do the dishes. I have a dishwasher. Otherwise, I would make you do the dishes because I hate doing the dishes. I hate it. Before I had a dishwasher, when people came to my house and they said, I'm gonna wash the dishes for you, I was like, woohoo, do it, please do it. Não era aquele tipo de anfitriã que dizia, não precisa. Eu dizia, pode lavar a louça na paz do Senhor, faça isso, porque eu detesto. But thank God, it's been 8 years since I bought a dishwasher. And this is very formal, using mustn't, okay? It can be rude, depending on the situation, so be careful. And it's very emphatic too. Like, don't do it. It's not allowed. So only use mustn't if it's something serious. And in the affirmative, it has different meaning. In the negative, must not. If you want to be very formal, mustn't in spoken language. In the interrogative, it also asks about an obligation. Okay, what must I do tomorrow? But again, it's not common. People tend to use more what? Have to. What do I have to do tomorrow? Okay. And as I told you before, mustn't and don't have to have different meanings. Must and have to have the same meaning, but mustn't and don't have to are completely different things. You mustn't, it's forbidden. You don't have to, it's not necessary. Okay? Good. Let's move on. A very common way of saying that something is not allowed, that something is prohibited, is using can't. So can't is what people usually use. It's polite. It's not as strong as must. So you're safe using can't. You can't park here. We can't take photos inside the museum. Okay, so it's very common in conversations. It's less formal and less emphatic than mustn't. And it's used like to replace mustn't. Okay, so in the affirmative, you have a different meaning. In the negative, like prohibition, right? You can't open this door. Children can't play here. And interrogative, you were asking for permission. Can children play here? You were asking like if this is possible, right? There is another way of saying that something is prohibited, which is by using may not. May not is very, 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 very formal, even more uncommon than mustn't. So visitors may not enter the laboratory, but may not is more polite than can't and then mustn't. So this is very commonly used in notices. For example, if you say a notice at a hospital, people usually say you may not smoke here, okay, instead of you mustn't smoke here. It depends on the place. I've seen both, okay. Employees may not disclose confidential information. For example, this could be in a work contract. Like, employees must not disclose any confidential information. So it's formal and impersonal. It's only used in written language. It doesn't mean you cannot use it in spoken language, but nobody does that. And it's not common at all in conversations, okay? In the affirmative, it has a different meaning because we use it to talk about a possibility or to grant permission. In the negative, prohibition, all right? Or also possibility, a negative possibility, why not? And in the interrogative, we use it to ask for permission. May I go to the toilet? May I open the window? Okay. Now, let's talk about making deductions. So our class is coming to an end. Guys, if you enjoyed this class, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are so many videos in my playlist, videos about grammar, videos about vocabulary, about IELTS, DT, OET, pronunciation. I think there are more than 300 videos on my YouTube channel. So making deductions. Let's talk about making deductions. To make deductions when we believe something is true, we use must. So she must be at home. The lights are on. I have some kind of evidence. She must be tired after such a long day. Imagine, she lost a relative. She went to a funeral. She had problems at work, poor little thing. He must be tired. He, in fact, or she, whatever. So it expresses logical deduction, logical certainty in this situation, not obligation. We usually have some kind of evidence to support our belief. It's very common in both speaking and writing. Okay, it's formal and it expresses certainty. É aquela coisa assim, a gente não quer dizer com certeza é isso, mas a gente diz assim, um must, né? Provavelmente, muito provavelmente é isso aqui, né? A gente quer dizer é. Muito provavelmente é, né? Está aquele sorrisinho. É. She must be absent from work because she was drinking until late yesterday, right? She must have a hangover. So we use can't when we are certain that something isn't true. So it expresses a negative, strong possibility. She can't be at work, it's Sunday. This can't be the right answer. So can, always common in spoken language. Always common. So you can use it like whenever you want. So may and might, again, they're used to say that something is possible but not certain. She may be asleep. That's why she isn't answering the phone. He might be at the office. It's 2 p.m. It's Monday, 2 p.m. He might be at the office. Or if I want to sound certain, he must be at the office, right? Might is slightly weaker than may, but again, use it the way you want. It can vary. It doesn't make a big difference. It is very common in spoken language in this situation. Both are, okay, when we are expressing uncertainty. So, guys, this is it. So, using modal verbs is extremely important, whether you are communicating in real life, whether you are doing a proficiency exam. It is also very important in job interviews. So, for example, when you were talking about your abilities and skills, when you were talking about your responsibilities at work, you have to. In my position, I have to do this, I have to do that. Job interviews, again, be able to. I'm able to create engaging materials to capture and retain my students' attention. So modal verbs are used all the time. We sometimes don't pay attention to them. We don't realize we are using them or we are like hearing them, but believe me, they're very, very common. And if you want to sound more natural, if you want to get a higher score in a proficiency exam, use modal verbs. Okay, there are other modal verbs that we haven't talked about, should, ought to. We're gonna do that later. Modal verbs is a subject that is extremely um, broad. This is the word I was looking for. It is a broad subject, and I will still teach you another class about modal verbs. Next week, I'll see you again on Thursday, 2 o'clock, if nothing goes wrong. 2:05, always 2:05. And I hope you enjoy this class. Guys, I'm glad you were here with me. I know it's 2 on a Friday, and everyone is tired, and everyone is like, done. But so it's even more your presence here is even more important, because I know you wanted to be resting, you wanted to be watching TV, but you were here, and this says a lot about your success. This is like doing things that are uncomfortable takes us further, you can be sure. Okay, so thank you for being here with me, thank you for your attention, and I will see you again next week with another class about something else, about another topic. Okay? So, bye bye. Have a great weekend. Rest a little bit. And I'll see you again next week.